everyone. This is Alex, Tom's oldest daughter from Two Dads Talking. Thanks for listening to my daddy and his friend Doug's podcast. And please like, share, and subscribe to this. Thank you.
Hello.
And hi.
Yes, hi. Hey, look, a normal recording where we're not talking about something random when you hit the button.
Yeah, we vented sufficiently before I hit record tonight.
Yeah, that's true. So this is episode 47, right?
40, I was going to say
I
46. We do this too often. My wife called me out on this one time. She's like, you guys never know what episode you're on. You should know or just don't talk about it. I'm like, yeah, you're right, but that's not how we roll.
At the risk of my own health and well-being, I'm going to correct your wife.
Good luck with that.
Tom doesn't know what episode we're on.
There you go.
I know exactly what episode we're on.
Oh, I don't think she minds whether I know or not. She doesn't want us talking about it. It's all right. She's not a regular listener. We're okay.
It's okay. That's fine. So she'll get to me in like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Then I'm done for.
You're still probably fine.
I'll say other worse things than someone else will have gotten me. Lost your chance. Should have been on top of things. Yeah.
Yep, too late now. Statute of limitations on podcasts is like 2 to 3 weeks, I think.
I just don't think you're allowed to murder a corpse. It doesn't work that way.
Well, just don't give any insider information to any investigative journalist about stock held by the Pelosi family, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, or sell your stock when your company's secretly being cyber attacked, and then it comes out later that you sold $100 million worth of stuff before you told people the badness.
Yeah, don't do that.
Other than that. But we're not going to talk about that.
We're not
here on episode 47.
No, we're not on episode 46/47.
That I just double checked, and it's definitely 47.
All right, fine.
No, we have Tom picked out this issue tonight. It's a good one. And it's so good I'm gonna let him talk about it and set the stage.
Tonight we're going to talk about an interesting case where DraftKings is being sued because somebody bet his family's money with them. That's the really short, really lacking context, inaccurate reporting. But that's how we're going to do this thing. The headline is DraftKings sued after father of two gambles away $1 million of his family's money. And yes, that's million. The short and sweet of this is that a New Jersey man was gambling on DraftKings and gambled away nearly $1 million, taking a lot of that money from his kids' baptismal accounts, college funds, credit cards, and his wife's name that he maxed out. Literally every penny that was available to his family in any way, he went after it and put it on DraftKings and was gambling when he started right around $4,000 a month. Looks like he makes about $200,000 a year, so he made decent money. I don't know what his wife made. But they had a decent household income. And it looks like in 2020, he was gambling about $4,000 a month. It was never more than $3,775.
It's still like 20% of your annual income, though.
That's still a lot. Well, when they say you gambled that much, the way that they report this, it's not always fresh money. A lot of that is like
I know. It's like that's his number of wagers, but he had wins in there that were helping refuel it and all that stuff. Yeah, no, I understand that, but still, it's like that is kind of feels like a large number. I don't know. It
sure feels like a large number. Coming from a guy who every August or September puts $25 on DraftKings and says, "Let me see if I can run this up to something during the football season," and then feels bad placing $5 bets every week. That's me.
Right.
Gambling $3,775
in a single. It says never more than that in a single month, but still, like if it's somewhere in that 3,000 plus range, that's $100 a day. Yeah. Even if you're winning and re-putting, that's
a lot.
That's pretty consistent. You're treating that like a full-time job at that point, I feel like.
Yeah. And by 2023, he was betting as much as $125,000 a month. So that number went up a little bit over a few years, right?
Just a tad.
Just a tad. And you might wonder, how do you get to that point? How do you start less than 4,000 and then in 3 years wind up at over 125K a month? Well, the story does a pretty good job of telling us exactly how he got there. His kids are under the age of 10 years old, so they're really, really young. They literally had money in accounts from baptisms and confirmations and college accounts and things like that. When you've got kids, you understand that, relatives give money for those things, and usually it could be anywhere from $50 to $100. I've seen some people give their kids a lot more. Um, that number can grow pretty quick. But he also went after the family credit line. He took out a home equity loan on the house and went after, like, refinanced the house and took money out of that. He did a lot. And the reason that he spiked so high and so fast is because it looks like he was targeted by DraftKings as someone with a lot of potential as a customer and a gambler. They assigned a team of 4 people to literally coax him into gambling more. And if you're familiar with casinos, you see this in the casino world. Someone will win something, they'll win a big bet, they'll make a ton of money, craps or blackjack or roulette. And all of a sudden, the house wants them to stay, and they start comping them free rooms and giving them free food. And here's $1,000 credit to go shopping if you'll stay another day. Gambling works in such a way that if you do it long enough, you will go broke. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
The house always wins. They never pay out as much as they take in. And while you may win sometimes and you may have a good streak and you may be better at gambling than other people, the only person who's going to win long term is the house. So they know if they can keep you there long enough, they're going to get your money. It's just a
They're
matter
going to
of
get the
how.
money back, and then
Right.
you're going to want to try to get at least some of that back, and they'll probably end up with more.
Right. And
So
there
it's
are
worth it. Yeah.
tons of stories you can see on YouTube with gamblers where they talk about exactly this. I was up, 300K. I was up 2 million, and they comped me all the stuff. And so I stayed, and then I lost it all. This is a very common theme in gambling. But it's interesting because DraftKings is something that's available literally through your phone in like 46 states or 48 states, something like that. I should have looked that number up before I started this. But
39.
39. There you go.
39. Yeah.
So it's easily accessible literally anywhere you go within your state. You can do it while you're on the porcelain throne. You can do it while you're sitting on the couch watching a football game. You can do it, when you're trying to wind down but go to bed at night or first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee. It's gotten into our homes in the most convenient way in the history of our country, with the internet being what it is and delivering things to us. And they had 4 people attached to his account that would email him and call him and send him things through the account. They sent him like designed wine glasses and cruises, and they called themselves the VIP hosts, part of a VIP private group. And the 4 of them knew that he was married, knew that he had kids, and they gave him all kinds of stuff. Like I said, free gifts, trophies, cruises, lots of incentives to stay on this thing and keep gambling. They gave him status. He had upgraded to Onyx Elite level status. People actually care about this, and it's something that sounds really silly to me. But when I go to play poker in the poker room, there are people who are legitimately pretentious and will legitimately look down on you because they've got, say, a diamond card, a diamond level, and you're only gold or you're only platinum. And there are people who will literally, when you put it down on the table, you can see it in their eyes. And they're my favorite people in the poker room.
Yeah, because you're going to take their money.
That's the goal. It means they have it. It means they've got money I don't have to feel bad about taking, which is nice.
Exactly.
So DraftKings is now giving out tier levels like that. And by the way, I didn't know anything about that, despite the fact that, like I said, I put a little bit on there every year and I run it up through the football and the basketball season and kind of have fun with it with $5 bets. I didn't know that they had this on DraftKings, so this is interesting. But this VIP's team their entire goal was to keep him betting, to keep him on DraftKings, to make sure he doesn't take his money and his business over to, say, FanDuel or Caesars, a different app. And they were basically fostering a gambling addiction in this guy, which is really where this thing gets interesting. There are limits put in place where anyone who reaches these levels or is gambling at a certain amount, they have to verify the source of their money. This is an anti-money laundering act that DraftKings and FanDuel and all these sports books are supposed to do to comply with federal regulation, the federal government, so that people aren't just on there washing illegal money through DraftKings. And they waived all these things. They didn't make him furnish his W-2 and his bank statement. They knew that he was gambling like 4 times his annual income at one point, and they didn't cut him off. They really went all the way to keep this guy sort of on the hook. And now his wife, after seeing all of this, is suing DraftKings because she feels as though they created a gambling addict out of him. He wouldn't have done this otherwise, and that they basically fleeced him along and were unethical and just sucked all this money out of him. A lot of the money is in their mortgage, is in credit cards. It's money they don't have. and they're on the hook for the number is $942,232. A lot of that was in the kids' names, and it's just money they can't come across. They don't have it. They can't make it. Their credit is maxed out. They can't possibly make that kind of money right now. So they're suing DraftKings for negligence, fraud, and then violations of the New Jersey Consumer Fraud Act, demanding that DraftKings returns that money. And this isn't the first time DraftKings has been sued, but this is certainly the most public with the most details I've ever seen. And this is the first time where they've got evidence of a team from DraftKings sort of baiting this guy along. And if I can use a word that I know Doug hates the word trigger word, that's kind of triggering. They kind of groomed this guy. Like they really, really did. They brought him along and they built him up and they gave him gifts and they did what they could to make him a more compliant gambler, knowing that he didn't actually have this money. And that's the story. Go.
Go. I mean, if I may be pedantic, I don't think groomed is really the right word. I would say enabled is really more the correct word here. So when I first saw this headline, I think we both agreed on this when we were first talking about this. We both thought, oh, okay, some idiot lost all of his money and, I mean, poor wife, poor kids, and poor family and all that, but they're just trying to weasel their way into some version of a settlement to at least try to offset some of their losses.
Right.
But yeah, then going through and actually reading this, it's like, oh, they might actually have a case here. My big thing that really moved me from this is this guy's fault to this may actually be DraftKings' fault is when they said they were talking to him by telephone and text and email.
Yeah.
That's different to me. That's not in-app messages. That's not mailing. That's not, even like free promotion to like the Onyx Elite level status like they gave him. That's like someone showing up at your door. Like that's like if you're sleeping in a hotel room at Las Vegas and while you're sleeping, someone who works at the casino knocks on your door and goes, hello, Mr. Shuda.
Yeah.
We have a slot for you waiting right now, but you got to come down in the next 15 minutes. Like, come on.
And I'm going to keep knocking on your door until you do.
Exactly. This is going into like personal communication, not through company, systems and stuff like that, at least not on his end. So
yeah,
that was kind of the switch for me was, oh, they're really coming after this guy because they're trying to be super personal. All the other stuff, it to me on its own is not in and of itself an issue, but it kind of adds up. So 4 VIP hosts assigned to him. Why do you need 4 people? I mean, I guess to make him feel extra special so that if one of them is sleeping, he can still get stuff.
right.
Maybe. And I don't know, but like, hey, I have a question about this new promo your system fed me. That's really how the VIP thing should be run if it's meant to be efficient and above water. So when you have 4 people, they probably are finding out, hey, one person is more successful with him. And so that's the person who talks to him more. And they probably just have that little setup. This reminded me a little bit, and I mean, it's a hair different because at least theoretically he is a full-grown man with all of his faculties. He just has an issue. But this is sort of like, why can't I think of the word? It's when you go after an elderly person's money when they don't have all their faculties there. There's the actual word for it. I can't remember what the actual word is, like the elderly abuse thing, but specifically financial. It feels kind of like that. They ingratiate themselves to him. They tell him how special he is. They text him with this stuff. They call him. They email him and they say, "Hey, we'll give you this if you keep this. Keep it up." And that's the kind of level of attention and care that he's getting here. This is not just someone who wagers a lot of money. This is someone that they are specifically going after. They're being extra personal. It's more that level to me. That's why I don't like it. Didn't even ask him to provide a W-2 when he's wagering that much money. Like they should be asking for this just to protect themselves a little bit, you'd think.
Yeah, but I think they were just looking at the dollar sign. I think this is just a case of, just literally just looking at the dollar sign, and kind of not doing what you're supposed to do. There are rules and regulations in place that literally sidestepped, and it looks like intentionally did it. There was one of my favorite like paragraphs out of all the articles I read on this was that the site failed to adhere to anti-money laundering practices, failing to establish proof of funds for his growing deposits. Had they done so, they would have noticed he earned around 175K a year based on his tax forms, but deposited 87% of that amount in 2021, 300% of that in 2022,
Literally impossible.
and 440% of that in 2024.
And that actually is a good point because I mean, so at best now, at best, just purely legally, this is negligence on
Yes.
DraftKings part. If it's not entrapment or embezzling or enabling or whatever other, coercion or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
This is at best negligence because like the money laundering stuff, what's to stop some, you know, illicit terrorist or otherwise organization from funneling money through a profile or a guy or whatever this exact way? If they're not going to corroborate where the money's coming from, then this could be illegal funds being run through this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
100%.
that is actually a good point just on its own. Um, the other messed up thing is when I read the whole deal, it's like, oh, so he's losing a total of 942,000 and some change, but he gambled almost 15 million. And my first thought was, oh, so he only lost one out of every $15. That's actually pretty good.
Not exactly how that works, but yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
It's not exactly how that works.
Right.
You're right, but if he rolled up there with $15,000, he only lost 1,000.
Yeah. Well, apparently
I'm a terrible person.
you are a terrible person, but that's kind of why I love you.
Thank you.
So they're apparently separated, which who would have seen that coming?
Shocker, plot twist.
Shocker there. Yep.
It's just like the end of Saw, only more shocking.
Yeah, I just this one grabbed my attention because, like you said, when I first read it, I was like, "Oh, this is someone who just gambled too much and pissed it away, and now they're trying to get it back." And by the time I was done with it, I went, "Well, yes, it is that, but also DraftKings really went after him. They really attacked him, and yeah, that's kind of the who do you blame, the drug dealer or the drug user for the drug transaction? Like, who do you blame for that happening?" And
Why not both?
well, exactly, why not
It's
both?
kind of like how I feel about it.
Yep, I agree with you. But if you get someone who is turned into an addict or is coaxed along and is, I'm gonna say it again, groomed, because I still think that's an appropriate word for this one. When you get someone who's nurturing that and is taking it beyond enabling. When you go to coaxing, when you go from enabling to coaxing and almost demanding, I feel like it's just different, and that's what happened here. And this is I think of Casey in Vegas, who enabled me to play poker. And, he threw money at me to come out and play poker. But at no point when I was like, no, I can't move to Vegas, I can't do that, did he ever, try and force me and manipulate me to go there. He was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, that's cool, man. Good luck in Connecticut. When you come out here, let me know. When I come out there, I'll say, hey. At no point did I ever feel like he was, manipulating me to get me to do it. And this guy, I think, was manipulated. They found someone who was willing, and they took this to a whole different level. And it makes me wonder how often they do this. This can't be the only time this has happened,
Well, they're
He can't
probably
be the
doing it
only one.
less now. I
You would
hope.
think.
Well,
Yeah,
you
you
don't
would
know.
think.
Sometimes the arrogance on these guys is big anyway. They just think they'll wait until they're told to stop.
That's true. But there are tons of stories. If you follow professional poker players, if you follow Mickey or you follow Phil Ivey, like they tell stories about this where they're just up so much money. The casino does not want them to leave and just offers them the world to stay. And these stories are real and they're out there. I know a couple who plays at Foxwoods. The I don't think they would mind me saying their names. Mike and Virginia.
Wow, those
Um,
are really peculiar names, though. We'll definitely know who they are after saying that.
well, I don't think they listen anyway. But he's a third ID veteran with me. We give each other when we see each other, which is once every, I don't know, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, we bump into each other. Because they're not there all the time. He's always got third ID trivia for me. Like he always hits me up with something. He's like, "What are the three battles they're most known for in World War One?" Or who's the most decorated soldier in 3ID history? And of course, I answer myself, and he laughs. But he likes to quiz me with third ID stuff, and we fire stuff back. And they're genuinely a sweet couple. They're awesome. They tell a story about when they went to somewhere in Vegas and they were playing roulette, and she put all her money on a number and hit it and let it ride and it hit again. and then it let it ride and it hit again, and they had a six-figure win off of
Wow,
like a very small bet. And
man.
yeah, and then the casino was like, okay, let's put you in a penthouse, let's comp all your meals, here's shopping, here's this, here's that, here's free slot play, $1,000 free slot play for each of you. And they threw the world at them, and that was for like one hit on a roulette wheel. That wasn't even something that has been happening for a long period of time with someone who makes 175K a year. So this is standard practice for casinos, but it's
Yeah, but
generally
think
in
about how
person
often
because you're
that
there.
really happens, though. Like,
Yeah.
well, this is to keep it on the same number on the roulette wheel each time, and this was three hits in a row.
Yeah. And the
I mean,
odds have to be
that's
astronomical.
well, what
What's
is that? This is 27 with three
28?
zeros.
I thought it was 28.
How
Is it
many numbers on
27?
on a roulette wheel? I
I
do
thought
not
it
play
was,
roulette.
I don't
30,
either, but I feel like it's 28 and then there's a zero and a
and then there's
double
zero and the
zero.
double zero.
Is there a
I thought
triple
it
zero?
was
Do I have this wrong?
no. I think
Okay.
some wheels do. I thought it was 30 something with the zero and double zero. The point is that this is at least just by pure mathematical odds a 1 in 27,000 shot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people come into casinos each day, but they're probably doing this once every 2 to 3 days, maybe if theoretically if someone's doing this. So
Yeah.
it's probably standard practice.
Makes sense. I don't
Clearly,
know.
they know exactly what they're going to comp and when they've got it all ready to go. So it probably is some version of regular.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You hear all the good gambling stories and the bad, painful gambling stories when you play poker in a poker room, like for a long time. You get to know people and you hear all the stories. And there was someone, he was a blackjack dealer, and I remember him talking to me. This is years ago. This is before I went to Virginia. So this was, I don't know, 2010-ish, 20, maybe 2011. I think 2010. And he was a blackjack dealer and he was down playing poker with us. He dealt blackjack at Mohegan Sun and he played poker at Foxwoods. And he was sitting down one night talking to us, and I just asked him, like, what's the most you've ever seen someone win playing blackjack? And I don't remember his answer. And it's kind of funny. I don't remember that, but I remember the beat story. And I just don't remember. And I'm sure it was impressive. And I said, what's the worst you've ever seen somebody lose? And he said, well, I had a really good one about a month ago. And he didn't say this is the most he's ever seen. His words were, I had a really good one. So
yeah, as in like top five.
yeah, so I assume there are bigger ones, and it's not all that uncommon. But he came in to deal. He dealt during the day. And he came in a deal, and there was a bus that came in from New York, and it would bring people up, and they would get like a voucher for food, and they would get a hotel room, and they would get free slot play and free buffets, and it was all part of the package they bought. And the bus would drop them off one day, and would pick them up like the afternoon of the next day and drive them all back to New York. And so he was dealing blackjack, and the bus came in and dropped people off, and there was a woman who came straight to his table. She didn't even check in, and she sat there and was playing blackjack. And for like the last 3 or 4 hours of his shift, she sat at his table without moving except to go to the bathroom. And when he left, she was up. He said, I think he said something like $5,000, which back then was a good amount of money, right? Like
Yeah.
now it's a good amount of money, but back then it
Yeah,
was
that's
more.
good. Probably sat down with like $100 or something.
I have
100,
no
200
idea.
bucks.
She took the bus, so it's not like she took a limo in, you know, she didn't take a helicopter or anything. So she probably did
Yeah.
sit down with a lot.
No, that'd be like 10 grand today, and you're starting with like probably $200 or $100. You're doing well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he goes home and comes back the next day and she's still at the table. And he's like, wow, hi. And apparently she went and checked into her room and came right back to her lucky seat because she had made so much money there. And by the
Mhm.
time he came in the next day, she was down a couple of $1,000s. But she
Oof.
was going to win it back because it was her lucky
Right.
seat.
Right, of
He
course.
said, yep. He said by the end of his shift, once again, she was up. She was up like 2 or 3 grand. And basically he was like, well, you know, sorry to see you go. Good luck on the bus trip home and da 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 da. And he ends his shift and leaves. He comes in the next day and she's there.
Does she eat?
She went up. She's been eating apparently. She's been leaving to eat and go to the bathroom. Apparently she went to her hotel room at some point to sleep. She got up again like a lot before his shift and decided she could catch another bus home, she could get another way home, but she didn't want to give up this rule because you never get this hot at blackjack, and she didn't want to miss this opportunity for this hot seat she had found.
Exactly. You don't get this hot at blackjack. You need to
Right.
stop.
And
Which
apparently
is easy to say when you're not in the middle of it. Yeah.
Yep. Apparently she was up over $20,000 at some point.
What?
Skipped her bus because it was such a hot seat. The casino comped her another night, gave her another room, gave her more food. And by the time he came in the next day for his shift, she was down $10,000. So they got it all back plus 10 grand. She skipped her
Man.
bus. She stayed the extra night. Any obligation she had at home, she put off by a day. But they, she was hooked. And this doesn't sound like anything like what we just read about. All they did was
No.
give her a room, is what it sounds like.
All they did is just say you can stay for free, just keep
Right.
playing. That's all. Yeah.
But she was not willing to give up what she thought was a hot seat. And for 3 days, she was there all day, every day during each of his shifts and then some. And he said that when she finally left, he thinks she was down like 10 or 12 grand. I remember that number very clearly. Um, yeah,
Jeez Louise. That's awful.
yeah. It's a hell of a swing, right? That's just a roller coaster. I've had some nights at a poker table that feel like a roller coaster, but what we're really talking about there is a swing of
$500 or
maybe
something.
500 to
Yeah.
$1,000. And yeah, it goes up
Right.
and down, but at the end of the day, the swing is I play 2-5 is the biggest stakes I play. So the biggest swing I'm ever going to have is maybe 2 grand, maybe. And yeah, just insane to think of a $20,000, $30,000 swing. Something so addictive that I can't leave my seat for 3 days and I have to be there and I can't take the bus home.
Well, that's the other thing that I'm hearing. So if I assume a fair amount of you guys listening have played at least some blackjack at some point, that blackjack is not like $100 a hand either in a lot of those tables. So
Well,
for
it
her
can
to,
be, right?
I mean, it can be depending on your table, but to go up and down literally 10,000 plus dollars each way, that's that's so many hands.
Yeah.
That's like she probably aged like a month because you start
Yeah.
coming back and then you lose three in a row and you start freaking out again, thinking you're gonna end up lower, and then you start going back and just you have to have so many little like just mathematically odd stretches of winning and losing in the middle of all of these things to even get to these kinds of swings. It's just well, it sounds like she more or less played for like 70 hours, right?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah, 3 days. I don't know. I
And
assume she didn't sleep a lot.
some eating in there a little bit, which would some of the eating would be right next to her at the table, maybe depending upon the rules there also. So, and some sleeping. I mean, she probably was literally playing 50 plus hours during that stretch, and you have what, a hand a minute most times?
I have no idea. I've played blackjack exactly twice in my life. One time was
Okay.
with someone who's a friend of the podcast. I won't put his name out there because this might embarrass him, but he was going to teach me to play blackjack because I told him I'd never played it before, and he was like, "That's stupid. Anyone who plays poker should know how to play blackjack, and we'll probably be good at it. So come play." And he
But the
talked me
house is
into it.
set up to always win, so,
And that's how
yeah.
I feel. Yeah, why would I play it? But he said, no, I'll teach you to play. I'll show you how to win at this game, and you'll appreciate this. And I said, okay. So he went to go teach me, and in the span of an hour,
You
I
lost
lost.
$500.
I lost about 100 because I put
Yeah.
100 on the table, and I wasn't going to
Okay.
put any more on. And I
Yeah,
think I
fair.
walked away with like $10 or $15. Like when I walked away, I was like, no, I'm good. I've realized like I'm not going to win this. He would size his bets up when he thought it was the right time to size his bets up. And he was, I guess when there were a lot of high cards in the deck and it was more predictable, he would, increase his bets. He lost about 2 or 3 grand in the same time I lost like 85, $90. And
Man.
yeah, because he just kept sizing it up at the right time and the dealer just kept getting there. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. He just kept getting there. So
Well, you just picked him on the wrong day. If he does that 3 more days, he'll be back up.
yeah. But I
Right.
learned there that this was not a game I was interested in. And the only other time I played was when we were in Vegas for our little group that turned 40 together. We all went out there and most of us were poker players. One of us was not, and he wanted to go play blackjack. And we sat and played some really stupid gimmicky version of blackjack with like when the dealer got a 22, I think is what it was. They would put these dice in a cup and roll these dice, and every dice had one cat's eye on it and five blank sides. And depending on how many cat's eyes came up, something happened. Either you'd win double, or you'd push instead of winning, or you'd get a free bet, or something. But like there
So
were ways where it could
basically
counterfeit you.
an extra layer to save the house,
Yeah.
basically.
It,
Yeah,
it
really.
looks like it's a bonus for the players. Like you're going to win more when you win. But realistically, usually it meant that the dealer pushed instead of losing, or it wasn't it
Well,
wasn't
that
a big
makes
deal.
sense. So normally you have one win and the house has zero losses, but then they do a literal die roll. So a random chance at
Yeah.
2-0 you versus the house or 0-0, which if those come up 50-50, then you're good. Then the house is happy to have that because now they're at least even. So then whatever other little option where whatever you still win or you get to carry it over to the next hand and the next hand doubles everything and then you think you can win bigger.
Yeah.
Like no, they'll always win that over the
long run. Yeah. And that was the whole gimmick of it.
yeah, right.
You know,
That's so annoying.
I think it was
I
called
get it.
Cat's Eye Blackjack or something cat blackjack. But yeah, it was stupid. It was awful. Those are the
Cat
two
Jack.
times I like that better. Black cat jack.
Cat Jack? Just Cat Jack?
Well, I like the idea of the black cat being unlucky and kind of favoring the
Oh,
house, like being
yeah, okay.
ominous. But
Okay, that's fine. Good. Well, you can come up with the names then.
oh, they've already got them. They don't need
Yeah.
me. But those are the two times in my life I played blackjack. And like I said, in the same time that I lost 90-ish bucks, I saw someone else lose like between 1,500 and 2 grand. So I get how this happens if people are sizing up when they think they're hot or if they've I get it. I guess I can see how that happens, but yeah, not to me. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I think what bothers me the most here is that it is sort of a version of targeting. I mean, this guy would have lost money anyway,
Yes.
and it probably was losing a little bit overall
Oh, I'm sure if he's continually making those deposits.
because he's doing up to 3,700 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably worse than that blackjack lady. I mean, I'm thinking she probably played 2 or 3 thousand hands over those couple of days, literally.
Probably right.
But I mean, morally slash ethically, I think obviously DraftKings is not right here. But any casino that gives you a comp or sees you hit big and does this, I mean, they're kind of doing the same thing. I'm trying to find a good bad analogy for how this is sounding in my head. It feels sort of insider trading, but not. Like the casino, the house knows that as long as they keep it there, they will eventually get their money back. If you say, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to play much longer," they go, "That's fine. You've been great. You're a great customer. We'll give you a free room." And they're just waiting for you to sit there and go, "Well, I could play a little bit more." Like, if I just like, I'll just take half of my winnings and try to do it. And just, it's like they know what's going to happen, or at least they know what's most likely to happen, and they're just trying to coax you into doing it. It's sort of like insider trading. They're betting that because they know that, and you theoretically don't. But then again, they're not really coercing you into anything. It is still your choice to play the game again. It is still your choice to keep doing this. So it's not like it's all to blame for them. Are there other crime? Like, are there other things that we talk about that in society that are literal crimes that are like this? I mean, like other than the elder abuse thing, but that's for someone who theoretically does not have all their faculties, who is not, societally speaking, a totally rational, reasoning person. This guy presumably is.
I'm inclined to think if there is, it's got to be something related to money laundering. I feel like that's just the biggest gate that this is going to flow through.
But is a private party like a wife allowed to sue saying you didn't follow anti-money laundering laws? Like, where's her damages for that? You know what I mean?
Have I told you the story about the guy who asked me to help him build an art store to launder his money? Have I ever told you that story?
I think you've made a mention of it before. Yeah.
I don't know if I've told it on the cast. We'll tell the real short version of it on the cast. So I ran my own business for about 5 years.
You could have been doing so well.
I know, right? I could have been. Now this would have bit me in the butt if I'd have taken the shortcut. I ran my own business for about 5 years, and it was during the pandemic, a lot of it, so it was kind of harder than probably average. And a big part of what I did was I helped people scale their small businesses into a bigger business. And if you had a bigger business already, I would help you scale it to a point that, you could seek a buyout and somebody would buy your company from you. A big part of it was me helping you make your business bigger. A gentleman that I won't name that I knew from town, small town, came to me. He owns a landscaping company. And he came to me and said, "Hey, I want to open up an art studio."
Of course, it's landscaping.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense when he tells it.
That's one of the cliche, like, look out for this, because that's a cash-based business.
Yeah, it's that and waste removal, right? Sanitation. That's why the mob loved sanitation. Yeah. So he says, "Yeah, I want to set up a shop that sells paintings and sells art." I said, great. Yeah, I can definitely help you with that. Do you have an artist in mind? Are you going to go out and be collecting from various people? Like, what is the idea here? Is there someone specifically that you want to feature that you know it's an artist?
Hunter Biden LLC.
Right. He says, no, 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 really, I don't care what we're selling. I just want to make sure that I sell art and that it sells, with a big price tag on it. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's kind of a pie in the sky dream. You need a better business plan than that. Let's see what we're working with here. So how are we going to start this company? He goes, well, my landscaping company does really well in the wintertime. I have a lot of snow removal contracts that I take cash for. I give them a discount and I take cash for it. And all my trucks and stuff, they're out pushing snow in the winter. Well, that's not on the books. And I want to take that cash that I don't report and I want to go ahead and run it through this art store so that it's legal. And I said, what you're talking about is money laundering. He goes, well, let's not call it that. Well, that's what my lawyer would call it. So let's
That's
call it
such a
that.
negative word. That's
Right.
such a downer word.
So we talked about this and I explained to him what you're doing is going to get you sent to jail. It's eventually it's going to. I said, if you find someone willing to do this for you, what's going to happen is they're going to demand more and more money from you as time goes on because they know the amount of money he was trying to hide was north of $250,000 a winter. That's what he was making in cash. He didn't want to report.
Wow, that's a good start.
Yes. And so I told him, I said, look, if you find someone willing to do this for you, even if you find someone who will do that, what they're going to do is they're going to demand a percentage. And that number is going to go up on you every year because everything's a cash transaction. They're not going to trust you're making what you say you're making. And their numbers just, they're always going to want more and more. And eventually, even if you do everything clever and you pull everything off and you don't get caught, they're going to rat you out because you're not giving them as much as they want. Something's going to happen, and this is going to end badly for you. So don't do
Yeah, or
this.
they know they'll keep getting paid until you're not making anything because what are you going to do? Tell the cops.
Right,
You
right.
know,
So I was like, so what you need to do is report these earnings on your taxes, pay your taxes on it. It's not like you're giving the government all of your money. Just pay the taxes on this and do this that way. He really took exception when I literally my advice was pay your taxes. Like he didn't
it's
like
kind of
that.
ironic you were giving him tax advice, sort of.
Why is that ironic? I'm missing a connection there.
Here in Ohio, you have to be
All right.
licensed to do that, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I wasn't qualified,
Right.
but I am qualified. I am qualified to say that it's better to pay your taxes and not go to
Right.
jail than to try and hide your money. And
That's just called normal. What do they call it? Just civilian, just normal law-abiding
yeah,
citizen.
there you go. That's it. I've got that level. So sure enough, he decides he doesn't want to take my advice, and he goes about his business. And I hear from his wife about a year and a half ish later. Hey, I wanted to give you a heads up. I'm gonna call this guy Tony because I have to have a name to use, or I might say his real name. So I'm gonna call him Tony.
It-
It's a good Italian name and it works. So she says, Tony and I are separated and we're getting divorced, and we're currently going through some issues because I know exactly how much money he makes every year, and he's not reporting that in our divorce thing. What he wants to pay me is half of what he makes. I want half of what he really makes, and he hasn't admitted to anyone he makes that much money. So essentially, when they went to divorce court to make the numbers easy, he was like, "Yeah, I make $100,000 a year, so I'll give her 50." And she went, "No, no, 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 no! I know about that extra 275 to $300,000 you make every year, and I want half of that too." And then he went, "I can't give you that because no one knows about that, and I'm not going to give it to you in cash." And so that's what happened. So when he wouldn't play nice and give her all the money he wanted, she was like, "Okay, I got you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You do what you got to do. You fight for what you want to give me. I'll fight for what I want, and we'll just see who wins." And she tipped off the IRS that he had been making all this extra money and that he hadn't been paying taxes on it, and she wants her cut. And so once the IRS hears that there's literally over $1 million
she's
cash that
fine
was
if it
not
gets taxed
reported.
first before it gets to her.
Yep. Yep. She doesn't care. So that was her call was to tell me, hey, look, apparently there's a forensic accountant going through his stuff, and they found your name and your company's name in his meeting books, and Dum Dum actually put in there washing money through new store under the meeting description for your meeting that day on the
God,
calendar.
what an
So you
idiot.
may be hearing from the IRS investigator, just so you
I
know.
didn't realize that this was the wife. You didn't tell me that part.
Yeah.
You just said you were contacted later. I didn't realize there was
Oh
the extra
no.
like hell hath no fury side to this. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and honestly, my opinion is good on her. Like she's entitled to whatever he's
This is
got. If
like when
they're
you open up someone's diary and they're like, not going to break the law today. Like, don't look here, guys.
Yep. No, but she was nice enough to let me know that there would be a forensic accountant digging through my books more than likely and reaching out to me, and there might be an interview. And she's like, "Yeah, if the FBI shows up, just this is what it's about." I was like, "Well, thanks. I appreciate that." By the way, do you have Tony's new cell phone number? I'd like to talk to him. Ah, yeah, that was fun. I don't know how we got on that. There was a segue there, but I don't remember what it was.
About the anti-money laundering side of this with not verifying
Oh,
stuff.
there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, see, I got you. Um,
I'm glad you got me.
right. Um, yeah, what we were talking about, do we have any other legal precedent for something like this where someone kind of pseudo enables and it's illegal with another part? I mean, uh, maybe some sort of like accessory to murder type of thing, or like a in the corporate world, there's the like willful blindness or
Yeah,
negligence kind of counts where you didn't know it was going on, but if you were paying attention, you would have seen something was wrong. 'Cause I know they do have that in banking. Like we got training when I was working in banking about you can get fined, you can go to jail for willful blindness. Like if you think something's probably up, or if you were paying attention, you would find it, and you didn't know, like it, you have to pay attention. And this feels like a version of that. Like DraftKings should have known that this guy was going to be doing things that would push the envelope of certain legal statutes at least, and it's their obligation to stop that, because what if he's, you know, an Office of Foreign Assets Control list guy or something like that who's trying to actually push money where it shouldn't go. Maybe that's it.
hmm.
I just don't see
Yeah,
how, but how does the wife, how does his family get a stake in it from DraftKings though?
yeah. I'm not sure. I think the equivalent to this would be like the really annoying guys that call you up about a micro stock. Like, yeah, I have this new stock. They're like basically pretend they're offering you insider information to get you to buy $1,000 worth of
Good
stock
old
over the
fashioned
phone
fraud
right
or
there.
something.
Right, right. And they're just
Yeah, like the product they're offering, they know is not actually what they're saying it's going to be. Like they know it's
right.
not going to cash out, essentially.
Well, a lot of times it's not even a real stock. Like this happened a lot before the internet was a big thing, before the internet was commonly available, when it was hard to research things. And you just be sitting at your coffee table on a Saturday morning reading the newspaper because people still did it back then with a cup of
Right.
coffee. And you get a phone call. And it would be some guy who got your name from a source
Yeah, some
list.
new
And he
stock.
would say, "Hey, is this right?" He'd say, "Hey, is this is this Tom Gamache of blah 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 blah?" Like, yep. He'd say, "Hey, such and such told me to give you a call about this opportunity that I got him hooked on, and he made a killing on last week. We've got this innovative. There's this company that's got this innovative new product, and it's about to be sold to the government. And when it becomes publicized, the government's buying this new product. Their stock is going to go up from like $1.50 a share all the way up to, we expect, 35 or $45 a share overnight." Would you like to get in on this? And such and such recommended you. Would you like to buy $1,000 worth of this now and literally
And
make
then they
30
just take
extra
your
money?
$1,000 because that was how people did business
Right.
back then too. So it was a real thing. Yeah.
Yep. And that was just actual theft. But the amount of work that they would put into it to reach out to you, to give these numbers, to make you feel comfortable, like it's a con job. It's a confidence man calling and getting you. That feels like, the closest thing to this. Even that doesn't feel right. This feels kind of like a unique thing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else really like this. I feel like this is, with the accessibility that DraftKings and FanDuel and Caesars and all these sports books have now, literally going straight through your phone. I can't think of anything that's really similar. I feel like this is a unique kind of issue.
Yeah. I feel like the if you're DraftKings, you're saying, listen, you are the one that's still making the bids. We're not sending you bids directly to make, like, you should bet on this thing, you should do it. We're just giving you stuff because you're a good client, and we're trying to make sure like we will admit we are trying to give you more access to more stuff because you've shown you want that you, with how much you've spent already. That's what they're going to contend. They're going to contend your same cell phone and internet has resources for getting help if you think you have a problem. And there's, and this is industry standard. Regular brick and mortar casinos do stuff like this too, blah 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 blah. That would be their defense. And the sort of the prosecution has to sit there and say, no, 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 this is obviously some form of like targeting, along the lines of elder abuse, someone who has more to spend and is willing to do it. And you can just get in their ear and you can tell them, "Oh, hey, do you have more money for this?" And they go, "Yeah, I'll figure it out." Like mafia style.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels like it could be, I mean, you can get them on a money laundering or a verification kind of thing from like a state or federal level stuff. That's easy, but where her stake comes in is sort of like the elder abuse thing. It's like, no, 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 the family still has a right to that money, not you, and you're taking advantage of a sort of a disabled person in that sense. But he's not disabled, is what they're going to contend. That he had a full-time job, and these were, you'd have to prove that he was actually not of sound mind, which at the time, when you good luck proving that retroactively.
I wonder if because they're gonna say it's a gambling addiction, that that's an illness. I wonder if that's enough to say that he was, not of sound mind and body because he had an illness is kind of how this is going to go, right? That's
Right. And just
what it's
because
going to
he's
be.
some version of handicapped, that doesn't mean that he is handicapped in other facets too. Maybe that's the play.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
I should have thought about this part of it more. Like, what's the precedent here? So it feels like there should be something like, well, like what you said with the fraud stuff. Invest in this, or like the Nigerian prince emails feels like a version of this. Like, we'll
Yeah.
give us a little bit of this, and we'll keep giving you more, and it'll be this relationship. It feels honestly, it feels like insider trading is the closest thing I feel like in my head to this. It's someone who
Yeah. I think you're right.
knows what will actually happen, and they are using that to their advantage. This is sort of the other side of the coin, though. They're using their knowledge to trick other people into losing their money instead of just gaining their own money. But it's still sort of an insider trading-esque kind of thing, I feel like. I'm not sure. It's not coercion. It's not racketeering. There's something here with like uh like those financial advisors that get caught fudging numbers and editing statements for their clients specifically to try to get those clients to bring their buddies in and get more money, and then they run off with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like the Madoff kind of shtick. Is that just called is that just called fraud or some sort of falsification or something like that? And that is a direct attack on individual people, so you would have a case for that. Maybe it's like that. All they have to find is one time. Any of these four VIP hosts one time said anything along the lines of like, if you stick to these games, you'll do better, or you'll improve, or you'll offset something. If they give one promise of like, here's how you do it, I think they have them in the bag, because then that is essentially some version of fraud, because they're giving a pseudo guarantee or an implication of success that they secretly know is not there.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those things where I'm gonna assume and make assumptions, and I have no idea.
Yeah.
I really can't think of anything else more
And that's
similar.
why it's a good topic, because I sit there and I say, yes, the state slash the Fed has them to some degree because they didn't obviously do their due diligence. Morally, ethically, yes, they're bad. Um, Homeboy here doing all the gambling also made mistakes and may very well have made these mistakes on his own, but he was definitely, you know, groomed, enabled, encouraged, what have you, to make these bad decisions. But I just don't know how his family has recourse.
I think it depends on how far DraftKings went to get him to place bets. I think the
Yeah.
communications, the private emails, I think once those get turned over to the court and opened, I think it depends on the nature of what is said there. And I feel like if anything hinges on a threat or hinges on bribery or hinges on something like that to really get him in there, it depends on how they said this stuff and what they said. And I would assume that they were probably pretty careful and how they did all this, because why wouldn't you be? But at the same time, they sidestepped all these other legal procedures. So how am I supposed to believe that they did anything
Right.
ethically at all?
Well,
You
they
know?
could have though. All he has to do is say yes on some maybe magical waiver, and they'll at least say they're allowed to do it. You know what could
Yeah.
be an angle here? This could actually be cited as some form of harassment. Now,
Yeah.
he is a willing participant. He's the one continuing to gamble the money. But the harassment can come from because we did cover this was a big one in the banking world, believe it or not, because they tell you to follow up on leads. Someone should refinance their mortgage. This is a hair shading on in this side of the world too. Like, oh, we found someone who, if they find out about this deal, they're going to refinance their mortgage with us, probably, which gives us more money. It saves them some money too, but you're also locking them in for 30 more years of mortgage when they may be down to like 20, so there is some financial risk there for that person. But
Yeah.
um we were real big on the TCPA, Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and that was the thing that says that stops the spam phone calls and the spam texts and all that stuff. Like, I mean, it still happens, but if they actually catch the companies who's doing it, those fines can be like $50 per text message, $50 per automated phone call that goes out, which doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize the companies that do the automated stuff are doing like thousands a day. And so you're getting into like hundreds of $1,000s of fines each day if they actually catch you. And so big banks like the one I worked at, they're real huge about making sure if someone says, do not call me, you add them to the do not call list, because that can fine mega bank a lot of money. And if it turns out you're the
Yeah.
reason that they got fined a lot of money, of course they're going to fire your ass. So, but I wonder if it's something like this here, because they were emailing him, calling him, and texting him. And maybe they got him to agree to all phone calls, emails, and texts, but maybe they reached a certain volume where they had to like re-up it, or someone argues that they should have been doing it with each type of game or each type of promo. And maybe if you can at least prove that they know he's getting money that's not his officially, because it's, her credit cards, for example. If he's not on the credit cards, they are knowingly engaging in fraud that she is allowed to get back, for example, because she's the victim. And there may be some loop in here to where it is some form of harassment, because they're using sort of like a pseudo spam telephone texting stuff to go after someone else's money. So that may subject them essentially to violations for her, who never agreed to this kind of access to her money. I don't know. It would take some clever attorney work, but I'll bet you could kind of connect the dots and say, here's all the bad stuff they did. Here's all the other stuff that we have to stop things like this from happening. Yes, this is a little bit different, but there's all these reasons where they shouldn't have been doing the things that they were doing because of the practices it leads to. So we should hurt them anyway. And it would help society by making this woman whole again, because otherwise who society as a whole will lose trust. This is a societal issue. This is you have to make it about the culture, the gambling culture. Otherwise, nobody can trust the gambling companies again, because they can go after even the non-gamblers and win. So maybe
Yeah.
that's it.
That's
She has
fair.
to be made whole because that's part of the societal contract.
I think I think
Got
at the end of
there.
the day, it's going to boil down. You got there. I think at the end of the day, it's going to boil down. It's going to be much simpler in a lot of ways. I think if there is any talk in the emails from these people, a text message or an email that says, "Hey, why don't you just go get a HELOC?" Like if there's something like that, it's going to take something like that, I think, for DraftKings to be liable in this. But I'm not ruling out that happened. If one of them says something like that, then I think DraftKings is in a sling. I think their best case scenario is that they're going to be found guilty for not adhering to anti-money laundering laws. That seems pretty open and shut.
Yeah,
I
that
mean, that
does to
just
me.
seems super easy. What I'm curious about is if there will be anything else attached onto it, like stacked onto this by the state. When kids are involved, or domestic abuse is involved, or any sort of domestic crime is involved, I wonder if they're going to tack something on like a countersuit, and name DraftKings as sort of a conspirator in like child
I was
neglect or
saying this
child
could be called
endangerment.
child endangerment if you know you're
Yeah,
probably taking funds from children and their
Yeah,
livelihood.
and
Yeah.
according to the reports, he took from their birthday presents and their baptism accounts and all these
If
things.
he
So
said it,
I
if he said, "Yeah, I found it in one of my kids' accounts, don't worry about it." Now they know. Now they know they're complicit in something that's endangering a child. They're the accessory to
yep,
child endangerment.
yeah,
Yes.
and so that's what I wonder is does it scale out that way at all? And that's
Got
interesting
there a second
because
time. It's a
man,
good night.
got there a second time. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. This is one of those few ones that I've already set the alerts in my Google alerts to like if something pops up about this, notify me. So if it comes up in a news story, I'll get a notification. I'm really interested in this one. This will be neat because I know a lot of people who are professional gamblers. I was talking to someone about Advantage Gambling a couple of weeks ago. He's one of the best poker players I know of, hands down, like anywhere from
Hands
anywhere.
down.
And he's hands down. And I like that you got that one. Thank you. He's considering doing a whole lot less poker and doing more of this advantaged gambling. And he said you should research it. There's a lot out there, and you should look into it, Tom. And I haven't
I've never even heard
obviously,
of this,
but
so interesting.
it's essentially a method they use to determine when slot machines are more likely to pay
Oh,
out,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they're doing that. And he's I know ballpark how well he does like with poker. I don't know how well. I don't know the numbers, but I know he's a winning poker player, and he was telling me that he's been making more money doing that over the
Yeah,
last
because they
several
pay
months
out
than he has this.
$97 for every 100 that they take in. And so, yeah, you kind of, if you pay attention, it's like card counting, but for slot machines, sort of. Yeah.
I don't know how it works. It sounds too good to be true to me, but he is the very sharp guy, and he wouldn't say it if it wasn't real. So it's something I keep meaning to look at, but I just haven't had time. Yeah, there's just no time. So I
This
don't know.
also has the capability to turn into a real like Alice in Wonderland thing where you just keep going further down the rabbit hole and things just
Oh
keep
yeah,
getting weirder and weirder. Like we could turn around
yep,
in 4 months and can be it can be like, oh, his mistress actually took the money out of his kids' accounts, and you're like, what?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
just
that's totally
it's just
reasonable. That's not a
that wouldn't be
stretch.
that weird yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, if you ever want to have fun and go another level on this, go look up like Mikki Maze, Mikki. Go look up him. He's a professional poker player. He's got lots of tats and long hair, and you can't miss him. And he tells some really interesting stories on YouTube videos about stuff like this, about going on big swings, the casino enticing him to stay, and him basically saying, "If you want me to stay, here's what you have to do to keep me," and kind of him setting the grounds. Phil Ivey had a legal issue very similarly. He wanted to go play high stakes baccarat, I think it was, and he was playing very high stakes, and he had rules. If a casino wanted him to play there, they would meet by these rules, and the rules were that he would get to choose the brand of cards that they were using, and it would be a brand new deck never played before,
wow.
and that it would be a private table brought to his suite, which would be comped, and that he would be allowed to gamble up to $100,000 a hand if he wanted to, and that it would be a private game and only he and one person would be able to gamble there. It'd be the two of them and the dealer and security, but there would be no other players. Like he had rules and he chose very specifically all these things. He said, if you want me to come play, those are my rules. And the casinos would send private jets to fly him and his guest back and forth. And he made a lot of money. It's a big controversial story. It turns out that he chose a deck of cards because there were imperfections on that particular, you know, publication of cards. And the person he was bringing with him was from Macau, and she could read these very well. And so she would literally tell him when to size up his bets and when to change things
Yeah,
up.
she would do some move that would tell him to do whatever, and she was on the
Yep.
take on the other end. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she literally just sat behind him and told him in Chinese, like they just spoke Chinese. And yeah, and he cleaned casinos out. And then when they figured it out, there was a lawsuit. And in one case, he was found guilty and he was ordered to pay money back. In another case, it was determined it was the casino's fault. They agreed to all the stipulations. They didn't have to, so he didn't have
Yeah,
to
and
pay it
that's like
back.
this though.
That's a really
That's
fun
like this
story
though.
too. Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
they're Phil Ivey now. They know what the take's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're really interesting stories that are similar to this. And if you're in the poker world, like you've already seen a lot of these, but highly recommend go look up Mikki Maze and just see some of his YouTube clips because he is a gambling poker player. He's a gambler. He's one of those exciting guys that I don't even think of as a good poker player, just an exciting one. But he wins and he's fun and he'll tell you stories and he does on YouTube. Yeah, go check that out sometime. That's your
I
free
think
reading.
that's the trick here too, is that casinos do stuff like this to people all the time. They know that all they have to do is keep
Right.
you. And Phil Ivey, who is an exception to the proverbial rule, if you will, of poker players, but he said he kind of does the same thing. He knows that casinos want him.
Yep.
And so he sets up a game that favors him. He's the
Yeah.
house because they're coming to him. And suddenly it's a problem now.
Well,
Like,
it's different because they're the ones being proactive and setting this up. But in this case,
but
DraftKings
you're the one
reached
proactively
out
going
through
into the
personal
casino,
messages
even though
and
you could look up and see, oh, the house always wins. Like if Phil Ivey generally wins his games, the casino is
right.
still sitting there coming to him anyway,
Sure, but if
but
I go to the casino, I expect you to come at me. I don't expect you to come at me through my phone when I'm sitting on my couch playing Monopoly
well,
with my
right,
kids.
exactly.
Like, and that's what happened here. That's
I
why I
just
think
mean the
this is a
Phil
little
Ivey
different in
thing
New
is
Jersey.
interesting because you could very much argue that if the casinos are allowed to do some of the stuff they're doing, he's perfectly allowed to do this. I mean, you could argue
Yeah,
imperfections in the cards. See, that's another like insider trading-esque kind of thing. The casinos could very well know that too and decide, no, we're not going to do that deal.
yeah.
Yeah, it
There was
just
there was a story told on a Joe Rogan podcast too. I think it was David Blaine who was telling it, the street magician. Well, he's more than that now, but he back then he was a close-up magic guy mostly. I think it was an interview with him, so we'd look that up. But he basically said that there was a guy who played in New York City in the underground poker rooms. The delis would have back rooms they would play in. Um, and this guy was playing back there before poker was a common thing, and he would go out the day before the poker games and he would literally swap out all the playing cards in the nearby convenience stores and deli stores on the racks for sale. He'd swap them out with marked cards that he created to be imposters, and so there would only be those cards there. And then he would walk into the back room and he'd be like, listen guys, I don't trust house cards, can we go get a new pack and open a fresh pack off the rack? And somebody would run out and grab one of these things that was one of his plants, basically. And then he would play with, marked cards that he knew what he was looking for. He would clear everybody out. And he had a 100% win rate because he did this every
and you
single
don't
time
want
he
to
played poker
reward
in these
that
New York
level
delis.
of devotion.
I don't, but man, is that clever.
Work
It's
smarter,
just,
not harder.
yep. Ocean's 11's a great movie. And I love the grift, man. I love the grift. It's,
Man, that's
yeah, fun
funny.
stories. I could do a whole podcast episode on this. I should do
You mean
odds that
like
are
how we
45
just
minutes
did?
long. Oh, I mean just me telling
Yeah,
stories.
well, probably.
I should probably do one with police stories. I should probably do one with like poker and casino stories. I could probably do one with Iraq stories or army stories. I should just do those like 45-minute odds about that. Maybe I'll start setting some of those up.
I think we're all secretly hoping that this woman gets and her kids get, made whole again because, it no matter who's actually at fault, this is the machine
Yeah.
taking advantage of somebody. And even if it's completely legal, um, we will not talk about it now because, don't know enough. But the United Healthcare CEO getting popped last week or whatever it was, I read something. I mean, most people are kind of doing the I think the distracting debate of is this wrong or not, like vigilante justice wrong or not. But I read something that someone said about, you'll probably appreciate this too, Tom, because of your background, kind of like the social psychology of if people feel like they don't have any legal recourse versus justice, like for justice, they will support stuff like this, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. If most people in most cultures, if you like survey them and they have a non-violent way to get justice or to resolve conflicts, they'll pick the non-violent way. People don't want the violent way, but the moment they feel like sort of the game is rigged against them, suddenly it's kind of okay that you have vigilante justice. And I think that's sort
Yeah.
of what this DraftKings thing is that DraftKings is the big bad beast. They're going to get their customers and they know it. And they're piling on already in the sense that they're already a behemoth and they're trying to like line themselves further by going after the people who they think they can coerce into more. And what's the recourse for this? This is someone who can get screwed over for not their fault, the wife and the kids. So if you don't have legal recourse, what else do you have? And I think that's why we're all kind of, no matter what you actually think legally, morally, socially, we're all kind of hoping she at least gets made whole again, because otherwise we don't have recourse against stuff like this. And you can be screwed over by somebody for literally nothing you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm rooting for the family. I hope the guy goes to jail. I hope he gets his too, because in my mind he gambled away his whole family's future.
Yeah, he
I hope he
should.
goes to jail.
Yeah.
And I hope that the family gets something back because of the kids and the wife. It's not like it was done, as far as we know, with their knowledge. It sounds as though it was done without her knowledge. Like this was all done. She literally woke up one morning and was like, "Hey, babe, we're $1 million in debt, by the way, and all our credit cards are maxed out. And the what you thought we had, in our house in equity, we don't have anymore." Like it sounds like she woke up one day and found all that out, spur of the moment,
Probably. He
and
was
I feel for
probably
them.
handling all the finances and stuff like that too, because otherwise she would
Yeah,
have been seeing stuff earlier and he would have been dodgy and crap like that. So yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious how we can wrap this into dad and family stuff. First of all, don't do anything that can hurt your kids and hurt your family, no matter how much you want to. Easy. Second of all, be careful who you marry. Yes, it just so happens to be the guy who's doing something like this, and it is more likely to be a male than not in this situation. But it can be something else. It can be the wife who's an addictive shopper or the girlfriend who just wants the latest and greatest whatever and keeps asking you with a boyfriend for it, and you're financially struggling. I mean, you can find videos nowadays all over the internet of the boyfriend who's expected to pay for everything, and he suddenly finds out how much is in the girlfriend's bank account because there's some street interview, and he goes, "Wait, what? You're making me pay for all this stuff?" And she goes, "Well, yeah, you're the guy." And it's like, "Well, wait a minute." Like, no. So that's the other side of this too, is be careful because your other half, you got to really be able to trust them in a way that you do not trust other people. And there is a little bit of a risk there, but that's why you got to be extra careful with what you do and keep the communication lines open.
Yeah, I think be careful who you marry is a good overall, rule for life. Just, marriage is hard. Work on your relationship. Keep your relationship an active relationship. Right now, my wife and I feel like ships passing in the night, and it's not a good feeling to feel that way. We're super excited that we have a date night tomorrow night because it's like time away from the kids, and you got to work on it. Marriage is hard. Yes, you should marry the right person. Don't settle into a marriage unless you feel it logically and emotionally that it is the right thing to do, and that you are sure of it. Yeah, marriage is hard.
And then 15 minutes into talking, you're like, we never get to talk like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it gets that way once you have kids and you're busy and you're working, and life gets busy, but none of that is an excuse to steal your wife's money and max out her credit cards and steal your kids' money and ship it all on bad sports bets. That's don't do
No, and
that.
I'll give credit to because when I was thinking about proposing to my wife, I went out to lunch with my sister, and she said, "Well, why do you want to marry, you know, your now wife?" And I said, "Well, she's pretty and she's smart and all that stuff." And then I was trying to like answer the question, and then I kind of stopped and I went, "Honestly, I can't tell you exactly why. I just do." Like it just feels like that's what I want. Like she's the one. I can't explain it. And my sister was like, "Good answer." That's kind of what you need. It just needs to be it. It's like your being says that you have to do it. It's like the hero call. If you're trying to convince yourself why you should do it, they're not the right person to marry.
And that is a great analogy. Yep.
Oh, darn, I'll try to be better next time. Do something worse.
No, no, you were due for a great one. That was great. That was good. I didn't bring dad jokes today. I
Oh,
got
I
something different
did.
instead.
Man,
Oh, good. Let's
finally.
go to dad jokes first.
Okay. All right. Let me think about which one to do first. Okay, what's the difference between God and Phil Hellmuth?
The difference between God and Phil
Yes,
Hellmuth.
you're gonna
Oh
love this
my.
one, I think. You're gonna love these. I got three tonight. I've been feeling awful about how I've been dragging. So I brought three
So you
pre-prepared.
came
I
repped.
did.
I want to try to figure this out, but I'm not going to get there right
It's okay.
now.
You can
I'm
take as long as you want. I'll edit it out.
No, I don't want to do that. That feels like cheating. Like between God and Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah, what's the difference? The one difference.
There's only one, right? It's got to be one of those where it's like one's a doot 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 and the other is a doot 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 doot.
Nah, you're on the right
But
track.
I can't. No, I don't have it. Go
God doesn't think he's Phil Hellmuth.
ahead. Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's good.
All right, next one.
That one's really
I
good.
know,
I
right?
like
It
that
just
one.
it feels so good, all nice and tingly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
why did the blonde keep folding all of her even cards, her even numbered cards?
Why did she fold all of her even number cards?
Yes, I believe in you, Thomas.
Um, she folded the even ones,
Correct.
so that means she thought the odds were in her favor.
Ooh, close. That would be a good one too. She was told to play the odds.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Good.
Last one. What's the difference between the poker room and church?
You have to be 21 to get into a poker room, whereas the church will get into
When you're
you
6?
under 12.
I mean, I guess, okay, what's two differences?
Um, I don't know. What's the other difference?
When you pray in a poker room, you actually mean it.
Savage. Very
Yes.
nice. Very
Thank you.
nice. I wish I had brought dad jokes, but instead I brought some fun gambling facts
Oh,
is what I
good.
brought today.
Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm excited now. I love amazing facts, interesting facts. I love it.
I figured you were like a trivia fact
You
guy. I
know,
mean,
I
I know you
used
enjoy this
to. I
stuff.
was on we called it In the Know team, which, yes, if that sounds weird, it's Quiz Bowl, basically. But in high
Sure.
school, I did that. Um, there was this, my brother-in-law still does it. It was this daily trivia. You actually had to pay like 25 bucks
Oh
a year to
yeah.
do it.
Yep. I
I
know
can't remember
this.
what it's called, but it's like you get,
I think Daily Trivia, I think is
well,
what it
no,
was
it was,
called.
but you paid 25 bucks a year and you got a day. It was like every single day, daily email, 6 questions. You had until the end of the day to answer them, and they were just free form, like there was no multiple choice. And then you got your answers the following morning
Okay.
with everything, and then you would. It was like a per week ish thing, and you would tally up the total number of right answers you got, and you would always be in a pool. And then you'd see how you'd rank in your pool, and from that you'd move up or move down, and you move through the various leagues on up. And their big marketing ploy was that Ken Jennings, who was, the big time Jeopardy winner, and to the point where he's hosting like trivia shows, he was like middle of the road ranking in like the top or second to highest league. Like he was not just like
Wow.
creaming everybody in this. Like it goes all the way up and down through, whatever. I did that for like 2 years too. So I do have this side of me that just loves stupid little trivia. But I was not in Ken
Okay.
Jennings's league.
So there was a daily trivia. It's an app, or it's a thing on Alexa, and
Okay.
every day if you set it up, it'll give you an alarm every day, and it'll say, "Are you ready for your daily trivia?" And it'll go through questions, and you get points based on where you're going, and it gives you regional
Yeah,
rankings and
after it
national rankings.
catalogs
And
your
it's pretty
blood
neat.
type changes for the day.
It's already got all that, so
No,
this
but
is
I mean,
always
you
the
have to
bonus.
document it each day. I mean, you can't just do it once.
No, you
Like,
do it every day. Yeah,
obviously.
this is something you get addicted. If you miss one, you get angry, and yeah,
Right.
no, they keep you on the hook. That's what I thought you were
No.
referring to. Totally different. Totally different. Did you know that FedEx was at one point saved by the owner gambling at blackjack to raise the money that he needed for his
I did
company?
not know that. I do know
Hmm.
that he proposed the business idea in his like business school in college, and his professor gave him a C and said, "Why would anyone ever need a package overnight? That's stupid."
Right. Yep. It was 1973, and the company had like $5,000 total in its bank account is what it
Wow.
had. And it was really struggling to raise money and raise investing, and they needed to buy themselves like 6 months or so to be functional. Like they needed to buy themselves 6 months for investors to come through with capital. They were going to go under. So he took the last $5,000 they had and he went to Vegas and played blackjack and made $27,000, which in 1972
That's
was a lot of
nuts.
money. Yep. And it carried him over, and they wound up getting $11 million in investment opportunities like 8 months later that all came through. And the company now is what it is. But if it wasn't for blackjack, that company we wouldn't have
So you
FedEx. And who knows?
can win at blackjack.
You can win
This
at
is
blackjack. He
probably
did.
where they didn't have comping yet. Other
You're probably right. Did you know the first casino in Las Vegas was actually issued to a woman owner, not a man?
really?
Yep.
See,
The
you're
first
using
one
the
was a
same
woman
tone of
named
voice that
Mame
you set. You're
Stalker.
using the same tone of voice that you set up certain jokes to. So there's part of me
I
that's
said
like,
tried. Yep.
wait, hold on. Is there something?
That's just my normal cadence.
Okay,
Sorry. Yeah, her
really?
name was Mame. Her name was Mame Stalker. It was called the Northern Club. She was a wife and a mother. It was 1920 in Las Vegas, and
Wow.
her husband wanted nothing to do with the casino.
Oh,
He didn't want to be associated with it. He was mad that she was doing it. He thought it was unethical and it was not a good
not
thing to
gonna work
do.
out.
Right, not going to work out. And they offered 5 games. There were only 5 games legal in Vegas at the time. It was stud poker, draw poker, low ball poker, 500, and bridge of all things.
Hmm, nice.
Yep.
See, follow the money, man. You start figuring
Yeah.
this out. Like all your little small business owners and business ventures, like they are always the least sexist, racist, whatever ist because can we make money
Yeah.
together? Let's do it. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit who or what you are. Let's make money every time.
So you say that,
I
but
mean,
I'll
like,
jump
admit,
ahead to a
okay,
different one that
yes, I'm not saying
I
this is everybody.
agree.
Well, but you get the little subsidiary stuff, like the members of an organization are the dirt wads, and then they have to do other stuff to shore that off. But when you talk about actual like founding people, most of the time they
No.
don't give a shit who you are if you can help them make money. They don't care.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only color they care about is
Yep.
green. Only gender they care about is spendable. That's all they care about. Do you identify as liquid?
Are you an
Yes. Okay.
expendable?
Good.
Do you like green? Let's
Right.
go.
Let's go. The Sands in 1952. Did you ever hear the story about when Sammy Davis Jr. Swam in the pool at the Sands Hotel and Casino?
um, I am unable to recall. It does feel like something I may have heard though. Continue.
It'll probably ring a bell when you hear it. In 1952, so we've come a long way in the last 70 years. People don't realize quite how far we've come with prejudice and with racial
I think I do
segregation in
remember
just
this. Yeah,
70
go ahead.
years.
Go ahead. Sorry.
1952, Sammy Davis Jr. is one of the most talented and famous celebrity singers and performers in America. Like, everyone knows who he is. The casinos and swimming pools in Vegas were still segregated. It was still whites and blacks. He went to a whites only swimming pool and took a swim to make a statement. Just jumped in and swam in the pool. People stopped and climbed out of the pool instead of a chance like today. If LeBron James is in a swimming pool, people are going to go mess with him and go be with him and be like, I was in a swimming pool, LeBron James. People cleared out. And the hotel owner actually drained the
Yep,
swimming
and
pool, sanitized
disinfected
it, and
it.
cleaned
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then refilled it and touted it as a promotional thing that they're that careful about it that they did all this after. Yeah, so that really happened in just 1952. Like that's bonkers,
Just like it's so irrational though. It's like
right?
what?
Yeah. Yep. So that's fun. The Nevada State Prison had a casino in it. Did you know that?
Uh no, I didn't. Sorry, I'm still I actually have heard that story, and every time I hear it, I'm just like, what is there any logic behind this at all? Like, are pieces of his black skin coming off? And it's like,
Right.
like what like
You know what? The melatonin content in the pool is just at a dangerous
like of
saturation level.
what
Like,
though? Like oh God, I don't want to like I prefer sunburn. Thank you very much. Like what's the
I'd,
logic?
I'd rather the 2-year-olds pee in the pool. That's
Right.
what I'd
That's right.
prefer,
Well, you know
right?
what? Just where's the is there any logic whatsoever behind this, or is
No,
it just a
there's not.
mob mentality? It has to be just a mob mentality,
Yeah.
siding with the bully kind of thing, not wanting to be the nail that sticks out, kind of Chinese saying thing. I don't know. I don't get it. Like it's just what's the logic behind it?
Yeah. There isn't any
Hey
good
guys,
logic behind it.
but like it's so bad that you have to drain the pool and then you scrub it and you're like, oh, it's all better now. Like what's so bad that like now it's all better? Like.
It's social psychology, it's socialism, and it's tribalism, and it's ignorant. And we've come a long. We're still not all the way there, but we've definitely come a long way. And people don't realize how far we've come.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, sorry. Nevada State Penitentiary had a poker room or casino in it. I did not know that.
For for the convicts,
Yeah.
yep, they were allowed to gamble with the guards. They were allowed to gamble that whatever they were earning while they were in prison,
Interesting.
and they actually had a casino in the Nevada State
Did
Prison.
they have poker? Because if the house always wins, that's like taking
They
your
did.
state worker funds
They
back.
they had blackjack, craps, poker, and they could sports bet. They had a little sports book in there too.
Interesting. That's So what happened? So did they have separate? I'm just gonna act like you know everything about this and not just the trivia.
Sure.
Did they
Yeah.
have like a separate like bank account with air quotes like
Yes.
for the prison? Like did the prison hold their funds in a separate thing like a like a
Oh, I don't know about
like
that.
a
I
trust
would
account?
imagine. I would imagine. So when inmates go to prison now, they get accounts. They get bank accounts. It's almost like a PayPal account in their name,
Okay.
and outside family members can contribute money to it so that they can go to the store in jail and buy toilet paper,
Or
buy
deodorant
spam,
and
buy
stuff like
M&Ms,
that. Okay,
deodorant.
I
Yeah,
see.
they can buy things there
So
at the
this
little convenience stores,
infrastructure
and
has
they
been
have an
around
account.
for some time then. Okay,
Yes.
I see.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
but there would have been theoretically some sort of ledger or whatever, obviously, of this, and the inmates, I assume, would have some sort of access to this to see at least their own balance, probably, or be able to be given some
Yeah,
sort
I don't
of
know
a,
what that would have looked like in 1932
yeah.
and 1967 because that's the time frame this existed. But I'd imagine it was like a
Like if you
checkbook.
want to
I'd
play,
imagine they just kept an old
here's your
checkbook.
little black book, or here's the black book we keep. You go in and handwrite your stuff. You get to look at it each time, so you at least have the last number in your head or something like that.
Yep, that's what I would guess happened.
We should do more of that. Like yes and
Maybe.
no. I mean, like no, I don't want to like gambling is degenerate and like den of wolves to a lot of people, but it's entertaining. It's using funds that are already kind of budgeted in the prison system anyway, if it's their wages. It's their own choice to gamble these, especially if, for people who are going to be there longer term. I mean, what are they going to save up they can save up their prison funds for something, I guess, but
What happens if someone gambles more than what they need to get by in a month in prison because they just don't give a shit anymore? Then the state has to just foot the bill for whatever they can't afford to buy.
well, or they just can't. Like, you can just set a rule that says once you have to have your account has to always be at minimum $10 or $20 or something like that, and you just can't go below that, and you don't have
Right.
the extra wager, and that's just how the games are set up.
And where does that money go? Does it go to the prison? Does it go to the state? Does it go toward programs in the prison to help them get degrees or get, I mean, where does that money go? I
I
wonder.
mean,
What do you do with it?
in my mind, you have a budget that's presumed each year for prison wages. That's probably an item on the books each year for each state or municipality or whatever. Because they've got to have the money to pay these guys from somewhere. You at least have to budget it somewhere. So
Sure.
if there's losses from that and you quote have a budget surplus, then you just agree that that goes towards planned renovations for the prison itself that's coming out of maybe that way the new wing that was going to happen in 5 years happens in 3 years now instead. If the prisoners somehow do well one year, then that just means you increase the budget the next year or whatever else. I don't know. Like it's just make it
Hmm.
part of the literal prison system.
Interesting. Okay.
The real problem
That's an
would
interesting
be,
topic. I'd be down with
I think but see, that's actually sort of a semi-humane thing. I mean, you can argue the promotion of it, but I mean, that's a way to keep guys out of trouble too, in a way, as long as it's,
it.
if it's
Maybe.
heavily,
And unless them losing makes things
unless
worse
they want to
because
shank
inevitably
each
they're going
other
to lose.
because they,
Right. That's why it got shut down eventually, actually, was that they brought in a new
right. But
warden.
if you have it heavily proctored though, like presumably it can be all up and up and, you'd have to have there, you already got security cameras around the prison. Like you have all the infrastructure in place to run a card room.
Oh, maybe. But the new warden in 67 came from California and he shut it down because he said it was a degradation to the inmates. He thought it was an
Yeah, see,
injustice
he
to their
didn't say like
character.
this is
So
actually bad. He was just like, oh, morally, ethically, we should give them all Bibles instead.
that's probably more
Yeah.
what it was.
So that's
While you were
interesting.
chatting,
Yeah.
I did look up the numbers on a roulette wheel,
Oh, okay, nice.
and it turns out we were both way off. Oh, I just lost
I
the
thought it
file.
was like 36
Yes, you
with
were much closer.
zero, double zero, and I think there was some like star or whatever like that. Like there were four extra spaces or something.
So the roulette wheel is numbered 0 to 36.
Yay.
So you had that right.
Oh, but see, yeah, not 1
Um,
to 36, 0 to 36. Okay.
right, 0 to 36. The American roulette has an extra zero, the double zero.
Okay.
That's not a European one.
Interesting.
And it turns out if you add all those numbers up, allegedly, they equal 666. It's the devil's wheel. Just saying. I didn't do the math to
So the
verify it, but that was what it
non-American
does.
wheel is just 0 through 36, and the American wheel adds on the
Correct.
double zero.
Yep.
And
And for a
and that way
while
they
in
both
America,
all
there
add
were
up to
also
666 anyway.
Yes. For a while in the American wheels, there was also an eagle icon, which is what you're
That's
thinking
probably,
of. And
yeah.
it was basically a third freebie for the house, is what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I do remember seeing something that was not a 0 or a 00 on there. So that's probably what that was. Okay. So 37. So hitting that thing 3 times in a row from your friends, that's a 1 out of 37
Astronomical
times 1 out
to
of
the
37 times 1 out of
times.
37 shot.
Yeah. Astronomical. Yeah.
Well, that's
That's got to be greater than your 1 in 37,000.
I can't do this math because 30 times 30 times 30 is 27,000. It's closer to 40 times 40 times 40, which is 64,000. So it's probably somewhere around 1 in 50,000.
So it's 1 divided by 37 to the third power is what we're looking at.
Correct. You could just do 37 times 37 times 37, and that's 1 out of whatever that number is.
That's the easier way to do this.
Hold, please. Do. Jeopardy music. Can we do Jeopardy music? Hey, 1 in 50,653.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And my answer is good for Price is Right because it was under.
There you go. You are Price is Right eligible. All right, last fun fact. Do you know where the slot machine was invented?
When the slot machine was invented?
Where?
Oh.
I'll accept when. If you've got a when, I'll take the
See,
when.
when feels like that's a sneaky answer you'd never guess. Like it was purely mechanical, obviously, no electronics. Boy, where? Like the obvious answer is something like, Amsterdam, wherever like that, that nowadays is more loose, but it's probably not that. It's probably something unexpected, like Japan or Germany, or you know what? I'm gonna go out on a loop and say it was something crazy like the ancient Romans. This seems
that would have been my
this
guess
seems like
too.
the kind of thing they would have done because they had the good
Yep.
bandwidth societally.
I would have guessed the Greeks for
Okay,
similar reasons.
yeah.
I would have thought it would have been a Greek construct, and it is not. No, it was the late 1800s in America, in San Francisco, in a mechanic shop. A gentleman
Huh.
built it himself and created himself his own concept and put it in his mechanic shop so that people had something to do to occupy themselves while they were waiting for him to do minor services on their cars. And it became so popular and so profitable, he started building more of these, and then casinos started buying them from him in the early 1900s, and that's where it all started.
That's why I gotta find this thing where this someone told a story about his little local town. The mob started a pizza shop as a front for their money, and people would come in and order some pizzas, and they were like, "What the hell?" And so they actually made a couple of pizzas for these people, and they were so good that they started telling everybody, and it got so good that they shut down their illegal mob operations and just ran a pizza
Yep.
shop because it
Just ran a
was
pizza
making
shop.
more money, and so it feels like that.
Yeah, that sounds a
I
lot
need
like
to,
that. It's
I
pretty
need to
awesome.
find that story because it's just like, oh yeah, it turns out we're legitimate now because it makes us more money.
What I say his name was Tony. Like
Tony.
Tony's art store. Somehow he stumbles across like brilliant interpretive modern art, and
Yeah,
it's selling
right.
for $1 million a painting.
Yeah.
He's throwing buckets of paint on a canvas, and it's selling for $1 million a pop.
Oh, that's another weird fact. Did you know that Jackson Pollock was a CIA setup originally?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Apparently
Okay.
they paid him to put out paintings so that he was making his money anyway, and they spent a bunch of money marketing him and paying museums to show his stuff and make him seem like he was this big time guy. And there was some sort of like psyop reasoning behind it, like some sort of subculture war with like the Cold War with Russia or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And
I'd imagine an artist can get into places
yeah,
culturally, if you're a globally famous
it
artist.
was some sort of, not even that. I think it was just meant to be some sort of like cultural, like look at how well we're thriving kind of thing as a society.
Huh.
And but then because people were like told, oh, this is art now, it like kept going to the point where
That's crazy.
original, artwork is a big deal now. Yeah.
Huh.
They dumped like it's some stupid number, like they dumped 30 or 50 million into the total project or something to basically make Jackson Pollock and a couple others famous.
That would be a fun
Mhm.
odd. That's one you should do.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I remember reading that and being like, There's no way. And then by the end of it, I was like, this is totally the CIA. Of course they do this shit.
Sounds right.
No.
Do you know why slot machines have fruit on them? Little spinning bars. You know why so many of them have fruit on them?
I don't know. This is not a
Because in the early
this is not a dad joke, is it?
No, it is not. No. In the early 1900s, a lot of them would actually dispense fruit flavored gum when you lined up 3 different fruits.
Oh,
Instead of getting a payment, you'd get like a little bit of gum
Interesting.
that was fruit flavored.
Neat.
Yeah, and it just stuck. All right, that's all I got. I'm really.
I
out
never
now.
knew any of that. That's really cool. I really like
Yeah,
that.
I tried. I wanted to
Ironically,
do
I
something
knew
a
the
little
racist one.
Yeah, well, of course.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, it's funny how that stuff just sticks around like that. Cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you. Don't gamble away your children's future on DraftKings. Don't do that, especially behind your wife's back.
Yeah,
And
don't do that.
double, don't do that. Don't launder money, and don't make your wife aware of it, and then don't divorce her and pretend like you don't make that money, because that'll bite you in the ass. Don't do that either.
Might butt you in other places too.
And it probably will. It's like that Christmas card that I talked about. Did we do Christmas jokes? Did I do that in the odd? That was
You
an
did.
odd, I think,
That was an
wasn't
odd.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, the Christmas joke promising oral and anal sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll leave that one there.
I was having such a
yeah.
good time until you said that out loud. Now it's a party.
Sorry, man. Prison sucks. Sorry.
All right.
All right. Thank you to our patrons. We appreciate you guys. We really, really do. This has been fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
good
for listening to
times.
us ramble on tonight. And we look forward to chatting with you guys again in a week.
Bye, Felicia's.
Later.